I should just automatically start recording when I get in here so we get the behind the scenes shenanigans.
Behind the scenes is where it's at.
Are you ready
How
for
are you?
this?
hmm
What are you drinking?
Mm, I shouldn't have shown that. What if I said tequila?
Tequila?
Make you nervous. Starting off Monday on a healthy note,
Yeah.
electrolytes.
Okay. All right. I've
We
never
started
seen.
the day well
Why are they
today.
pink? Is that
Key
normal for
nutrients.
flavored?
Yeah, you wouldn't know.
I
Let me
wouldn't
tell
know.
you about. I'm actually drinking key nutrients today. Have you ever heard of them?
I haven't.
They're good. They're
Okay.
good.
There you go, Key Nutrients. Free plug.
Little plug for you. It's good. A little higher potassium, maybe more other like more minerals in it. I don't know. I like them.
I'm going to write that down. We need to touch on, I mean, we could just start it right now, but we'll maybe touch on electrolytes later because remember the conversation we had?
Oh, do I? Yes. Still, still thinking about it.
Okay,
So much
so
to know.
I'll probably just leave all this in because you all know my editing skills are shit. So, welcome back to the podcast. I'm having Britt on again because it's like we the amount of voice messages we send each other throughout the day, they're literally podcast length. So it's like let's just record them so you
Like and
can
subscribe.
yeah, like and subscribe. So that way like maybe other people can learn from the psychosis that goes through our heads and what we're talking about and how we're like trying to be better people.
It's alarming. Yeah, it's good. Sometimes it's really good, and sometimes it's like anxiety, caffeine induced good, though.
Yes, yesterday you were having some issues, but that happens to me
Mm,
too. And I'm sure other
yeah.
people, like if you have too much caffeine, let me know. Do you get a little like I feel that way, anxious, and then like you're coming down, like it's not cool.
Don't go to Costco, okay? After too much, I mean, full on panic attack looking for your stupid pesto salmon. I was like, someone help me. Get me out of here.
It's in like the prepared food, which is interesting because
Uh-huh.
it's not cooked and ready. But
No,
it's like
it's not.
they assembled it, so it's in that section. I should have guided you a bit better.
I found it.
Apologies.
Yeah, it's okay. But
We
yeah,
got
no, it was an off day. It was an off day. I think a lot was involved there. I have a lot of thoughts about it, but I don't know where you want to start.
yeah, well, have you had the pesto salmon butter?
I'm
Butter
gonna have it
pesto
today.
butter salmon. Have you had it before from there?
No,
Okay,
it
because
looked
you're
amazing.
yeah, because you're like, I like my wild caught, and this is like extra farmed, which I love.
I mean, I
Tastes
prefer to
better.
catch it myself. Just kidding. But I love a wild caught moment. And also, but Gigi eats that you also like. So maybe I heard about her from you. That would make
Probably.
sense. And so that's where I went and did my research because farm salmon's so demonized by me. I was like, no, unfollow if you're eating farm salmon. I'm just kidding. But she has really good information about that. So then actually, fun fact, I went to Whole Foods last week, which I'm not allowed to go there, but it was just like convenience. So that's why we went back to Costco yesterday for recession shopping. But I went and they were out of wild caught. And I was like, what does one do? And so I started asking questions about their farmed, and they had a lot of information about it. And I was like, this feels not as sketchy. And like we know where this is coming from.
Yeah, and the salmon that they use like behind the case is I'm gonna butcher the name. I think I even mentioned them in my book. Kvioric. I don't know. There's some K's and V's and Y's in
Mm.
there, and it's like sustainable farmed
Mm.
salmon. And I think it's so much
Keywords.
better than wild. Like wild to me is like dry and leaner, where like the farmed, it's like fattier and like softer, more buttery. And honestly, I don't care if it's like what they're putting in there. Like I get it because it's delicious and I don't
Yeah,
care if there's food and you know, and all that I feel like Gigi has debunked, but I'm eating
yeah.
it for the taste and not the nutritional stuff.
No, I think that's fair. I created a monster because Jordan was like, "This is insane. This is so good." Like complimenting me about my cooking skills, and I should have just rolled with it because I just love a good complimentary moment in the kitchen. And I was like, "Ooh, it's a farm raised," and he was like, "Better,"
That's
because
why
he's
it's
like that
good.
too. With like he's like you with like grass fed ribeyes. Like I like it all to be honest, and I don't mind a leaner tasting. I know you say it tastes fishy.
hmm
I taste the grass a little bit. But I'm like, I'm a little closer to vegan. That's what like it's if your
You're
food
towing the
is
line.
plant-based, we're one. It's one community really. That's what they need to know.
Yeah, I can't do much grass finished. I do there's a local girl in Ventura. I'm actually having a meetup with her, so if anyone's in the area, um
Mm,
somehow find the information, come find me on Instagram and send me a message. But
love
she
it.
does grass finished, but also carrot finished. And I feel like it
Mm,
like takes the edge off. It cuts that flavor because to me, grass finished, like it's something with the omegas in the grass,
mhm.
whatever they're doing. Like I taste fish, and but not in a good way because fish shouldn't taste fishy. Like
Right,
when you smell a fishy
right.
smell, fish shouldn't taste that way, and my beef shouldn't taste that way. So I've just
That's
never
fair.
loved it. I want like
Like
extra
carrot
grains.
finished. Yeah. You're like extra grains, please. Carrot finished specifically.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow, that's
There's
so cool.
actually what's the handle? I recently found them on Instagram and they show like the cows, like a huge pile of carrots that they're like grazing on at the end. They're actually going to send me some stuff, so I'm excited to try it.
Oh my God, that's so interesting. Because yeah, my point in saying that too, Jordan's like you. He's like, yeah, this sucks.
Yeah, and they're
Grass fed.
leaner. They're leaner
Uh-huh.
and yeah, I just don't want the flavor. So
That's fair.
anywho, so what was even the point of this podcast? I think we were talking about like September goals. Like you were very ambitious, and then sorry, you totally flopped for a few days there. Not to
We
throw
all
you under the
know.
bus.
We all know, including my trainer, including you, including everyone close to me, some of my clients. Yeah. I mean, let's talk about it. I told you I was going to be vulnerable,
Let's
and
unpack it.
I think vulnerability is fair. When you've been on the journey for a really long time, you're never done learning. That's why the journey doesn't have a destination. We talked about that last time. And so I think for me, and part of my really long mini podcast that I send you daily, especially lately, because it's been all these like revelations, right? Because sometimes things just hit you differently. And I'm a big believer in like, I have to call myself out on my own bullshit. Like, I have to. Are we allowed to say that? You say stuff like that
Yeah.
all the time.
I try
Okay.
and keep it minimal because people like do not like when I cuss, but
It
that's
is
okay.
bad. It's wrong. It's unbecoming, as my mom would say, and she's right. So I'll be better, Karen. But I have to call myself out when I'm either lying to myself or making excuses. It's like, you're no different. So I feel like I've had a very humbling year where I've described maintenance being between the same 10 pounds of like you're either like up on the scale or down. But after losing 90 pounds, like I'm very confident in my abilities to shed off 10 pounds until habits come back. And I feel like there's a lot of things, and this is like kind of how I explained it to you, is it's like it's so funny. It's everything I kind of preach against, like my own principles and the way I feel like I like to live my life, but also the way I coach my clients who are maybe just starting on their journey or they've been on the journey for a while type of thing and not quite to their goal. So it's like this matter of, setting standards for yourself. But then I feel like real life creeps in, whether it's like your family, like your spouse or your friends or coworkers or people that don't live the way you do. And that influence is still there. And so it's like, it's hard. Not that I've ever been like, let me reintroduce carbs. Like I already know like what that does to me. But I think that there's been like this lying voice to be like, it's fine. Like I can dabble.
Just have a cookie or 10.
Ah, just have a couple. And then it's like a total because and I told you this, like you've been carnivore for 2 years, over 2 years now.
Yeah.
And like you just like all these OGs don't deviate. I do. I mean, I've not been this person. Like the first year, I didn't touch carbs or sugar, not a morsel. I really didn't. But I did like keto treats and I did other things like that. But when we've talked about that, back then I had to make it. So it's not like it was readily available. So I really was eating a clean diet and my palate totally changed. And my whole point in saying this is because there was a period of time where it was a really huge deal if I were going to have sugar. When you don't have it for a year, that's not just like a gamble decision. That's not just like, oh, it's a Tuesday, it'll be fine. Like, you're like, no, like, why would I ever do that? And so, somewhere along the lines, I did reintroduce it. It wasn't a permanent thing, but I'm thinking, let me play with the idea of moderating. And here's what I think about moderators and abstainers. I've kind of changed my opinion about this. I feel like I'm sure I've word vomited this to you before, but I feel like there's seasons because I have moderated in seasons. They may have been short, but I totally have like been able to have not even sugar, I wouldn't even say like sugar and carbs, but even like a little bit more fruit and like things like that that I kind of like dabble with, like which would be carbs. So like increasing my carb count like a little bit. Where I sometimes have seasons where that is a massive trigger for me. So I think it's about knowing where you're at, you
Yeah,
know?
and I think the items can change too.
Yes,
And
for
because
sure.
I used to send carnivore bars to my mom's house and have her bring
Mhm.
me one at a time, but I've had
Yeah,
boxes in my fridge and I'm able to moderate them now. So that's
right.
interesting. But if it were something else, like something else, whatever, then I probably couldn't. So it's, yeah, like you said, the different seasons, but also like the different item and it can change. So I think that's interesting.
Very. I think it is too. So, all this to say, I've had a very humbling year that has brought me back down to earth with the rest of society, that I'm struggling with consistency and staying on track myself. And I say that not like myself, but like I coach other women. Like I have pretty successful coaching groups and one-on-one clients that are down 40 pounds, that are down 50 pounds, that are down 90 pounds. Like, so I just say this because you know what makes it really hard when I'm not being consistent with my own stuff. Coaching other women in weight loss is really freaking hard. Like, you do feel like a fraud. You do feel like, you know what I mean? It's not that like I'm not allowed to struggle, but it's so interesting, like how we connect this to food and we connect this to addiction. You know, like I've been telling you, like I can't have certain foods in the house. I need to do this and that. I need to have rules. And that's all true. I do well with those things. But I think actually, when I focus less on food and focus more on the way I'm feeling and the way I'm showing up in my life, those things have a stronger hold on me to change.
Yeah, and I think it's normal. I mean, like, I don't think anyone's out there being 100% perfect with everything. Like, I was
Right.
even telling you last night, like, I was a little snacky last night and
Mhm.
overate, whereas probably like the month prior, like I was hitting my macros and it was good and it was easy. And then like last night, it was almost like back to that mentality where it's like, I don't care. Like, I'm gonna eat this even though I'm not totally hungry and I'm gonna blow past my macros. Um,
Yeah.
so I've been kind of sticking on track, but yeah, had a weird moment last night. But I just think that's normal. And
Yeah.
it's not like what you're saying, what you're preaching, what you're coaching with isn't working. I think you're
Right.
just not even like doing some of it. Like you have such good like mindset stuff. And I think
Yes.
that's such a huge part of it. But I think sometimes we
Mhm.
just get in those things where it's like, and me too, like I can tell you all these little tips, but sometimes I don't take my own advice. And I just
Yeah.
kind of, I don't know, go off the rails a little bit.
Totally. Well, and it's also like, back to what you were saying, like, depending on like what the item is or being in season, I joke about drinking because I do. And I know it's not a popular thing in the carnivore, and it's not carnivore. And guess what? Before anyone tells me anything, I've lost 90 pounds drinking alcohol in moderation the entire time. And the reality is, not everyone can do that. I'm very lucky. I realize that, or unlucky, because maybe it would be better if that was a major detriment in my weight loss and I gave up drinking. Because guess it's also a poison. It does interrupt the metabolic process. It will kick you out of ketosis. I know all of this.
And it
So I
makes you
feel like
eat
that's an
things you
important.
shouldn't.
Yeah. And so that's what I was going to say. What's crazy is I didn't drink in the beginning. Like I'm talking for like, a couple months, and I can give up alcohol. I've gone stretches this year where I didn't drink for the first 3 months of the year. And then so it's not, I do say like I don't have a problem with alcohol. And so, that's debatable in the future, I'm sure. So with that being said, to your point, that's also a trigger for people. So I just use that as an example for me where that, and then I started like incorporating in like, clear liquors, or way back in the day, like very dry, unsweet, like keto wines I would have every once in a while. But I still took that seriously to my goal. It's not like I'd let myself drink and I'd go have margaritas and not count that. Like, no, I'd never drink sugar, but I practiced not drinking and nailing my nutrition for so long when I brought back the ability for me to go on a date night with my husband and have 2 drinks at dinner, but eat on track. Then I practiced that for so long that didn't lead me to like eating all the wrong things. Now I've been known after several drinks to scrape toppings off of a pizza, but I'm not going to eat the pizza, like because I practiced that. Now this summer, things started going different. That situation. So that's where I'm like, again, like I always say this with my clients, and in the same goes for myself, is like that is not weakness, it's self-awareness if you can identify these things. So for me, I've had to pull back a little bit on drinking and being mindful about that, because it was having me, because of stuff I was practicing and little bad habits coming back in, it was leading me to like want to eat off plan or overindulge. And I'm like, we gotta stop that. Gotta stop the bleeding.
Jar of peanut butter.
Uh-huh. Seriously.
So yeah, if anybody, well, here, I'll throw out this tip. If anybody is looking to like curb their drinking habit, highly recommend This Naked Mind. It's a book,
Oh,
and an audio book too. I listened to it, yeah, 3 years ago, in hopes of moderating my drinking habit. I'm like, I need to learn how to not like obsess over it, and like, because I can't have one drink and like go about my day. Like once you
how long
start.
have you been sober?
I think 3 years. I'm so
Wow.
bad. Once I said, oh, like 6 months, and Jeff's like, no, it's been like a year and a half. So I'm always like a year off, but I think it's
Yeah,
3. I'm almost positive, 3.5.
that's awesome.
But I got that book to learn how to moderate. And I
Mhm.
had no intention of quitting, because I mean, the thought of that, oh my God, stop drinking. No, that was like what we did
Scary.
before kids. Like what would we do all week? We would go drink all day long. And it was so much fun. Like
Yeah,
and you think of all like the good times in the highlight reel. You don't think about,
right.
blacking out and
How
throwing
you
a
feel.
pizza across the hotel room in Palm Springs, the DUI, like the whole list of like all the bad shit that happened when I drank. You just think of the good
No,
times.
the
It was
highlights.
really fun, but it was an issue. So yeah, I got the book to learn how to moderate, and it was like, oh wow, like things started clicking, and
Hmm.
I went 2 weeks without drinking, had a few drinks, and then never drank again. And
Wow.
I joke, like, when I'm 90, I'm gonna have wine, I'm gonna have cake, like, I'm gonna eat all the things, I'm having peanut butter, but maybe not. Maybe not,
Yeah,
but you never know. I mean, at that point, it's
right.
like, maybe I'll start, getting crunk in the old lady home. But yeah,
Please tell me you're gonna get crunk.
definitely recommend that.
That's
Um,
cool though.
okay, so where else are we at? How did we even get down the alcohol rabbit hole? Um, I
Goals for
did.
goals too.
Okay. I'm like
Correct.
leaning over. If anyone's watching, sorry, I'm looking at my list. Oh, you know what I did want to mention, because I'm like been horrible about promoting this like on YouTube. So
Yeah,
if you're watching, like here's my cookbook. This
there
podcast is
she is.
sponsored by Carnivore in the Kitchen. It comes out in 3 weeks.
Woo!
And so pre-order it now, please. Super important for an author. We have pre-sale bonuses going on, which is like a sneak peek to carnivore cinnamon rolls, pizza, and a few other things. So I'll link that below. Um, and let's talk about the comment that I sent you. What?
Yeah, and I was gonna say, let's not gloss over that, because I was telling you, I didn't understand, because I've never written a book, as to why it's so important for an author. Can you explain that? Why, Courtney? Why should we pre-order it?
Yeah, it's so funny. And I was talking to Jeff. I'm like, why are people afraid of pre-ordering? Because
They
I've had
are.
comments that are like, oh, I can't wait to order this. I'm like, why are you waiting? Get
But
it
I'll tell
now.
you why, and I told you that we want instant gratification. If it's not coming out to October 1st, I'm like, okay, cool. I'll order it October 1st and I'll get it October 2nd from Amazon. You know, like that's just like how we're wired.
Yeah, and
But
that's what Jeff said too. It's like, why are they going to buy something if they're not getting it? It's like, okay, I get the psychology, but for at Amazon at least, I know they're not going to charge you till it ships, and it's going to ship the day before publication, so you will get it on October 1st. So that's
that's cool.
exciting.
Yeah.
And so why it's important is because, how pre-sales go, it just kind of tells, stores, I guess, like, oh, this is going great. You should carry it in store. So, I
Right.
mean, typically these are just going to be online. But if it does really well, then maybe Target will be like, oh, this is doing well. We should keep it in store. And then
Yeah.
other people can find this. And so pre-sales are essentially all the time leading up to the publishing date and like that first week. That all kind of like really sets the tone for things. So please go order it.
Yeah.
Even if
It's
you think,
important.
yeah, even if you think you don't need one, like if I've ever offered any value to you, like this is an amazing way to help support me and to
Hmm.
also vote with your dollar, help get the word out about carnivore,
Right.
use it as a paperweight or burn it.
It's
But
also
just
don't burn it for God's sakes. It's so beautiful. It's such a pretty book. And can I plug it for 2 seconds, like my
please.
take on it? Because I collect them. Okay, so I have them all right here, all throughout the house. Because keto, everything. And here's the reality. If you're truly, I'm like ketovore, right? So it's like, but if you're truly carnivore, and we can talk about the comment with this, but like my approach on this too is it's very exciting to me to think about like holiday and those things where it's like, do I need a treat? No. And depending on what season I'm in, I'm very careful and mindful about what I allow, right? We've already established that. However, it's really like exciting to think that I could make cinnamon rolls that don't have sweeteners, that aren't with fake ingredients and sugar alcohols, like all the keto treats out there that would still be low carb, that we know they're kind of not, because that stuff ruins my stomach. It makes me crave everything. And I hate that stuff. But I did that for years because I just wanted to partake in the holiday. And my mom's also keto and really now more carnivore ish too. So for me, that's what I'm excited about. Is like, let alone all like the green light recipes I can make all the time. That stuff is like really exciting and fun to me to be like, oh my gosh, I could have a cinnamon roll that makes me not, like I said, doesn't have diabetes, doesn't make me want to kill myself, doesn't give me stomach upset ulcers like sugar alcohols give me. Like that's so exciting. So
Yeah,
thanks.
but cinnamon isn't carnivore. And it's just some people, sorry to rant, but are just so annoying. Like, yes, cinnamon is from a plant, but you know what? A lot of carnivores are using spices, they're drinking coffee. And I will add that the majority of my recipes do not have any spices in because that's how I typically eat. Like, I
Yeah.
don't use spices anymore. But it's hard to make carnivore cinnamon rolls without cinnamon. For
Yeah.
some other from other desserts I have in there, like there's some vanilla and there is some cinnamon, and you could make those without it. You can definitely leave the spices out of certain things, but for this one,
Sure.
it's kind of needed. And some of the comments I'm getting, it's from the carnivore police, like this is keto. It's like, I really wouldn't say that a sprinkle of cinnamon is making or breaking it be carnivore or keto. And some people are just so dogmatic about
Yeah.
this. And I think it can be
Yeah.
very off putting for those that are interested in eating this way because some of the
Yeah.
carnivores are acting like vegans. Like, this isn't our
Yes.
religion. Like, stop it. You think you're so superior when you only eat meat and eggs. It's like,
Yeah.
congratulations. Like, if that's how you want to eat, that's great. Like, good for
Sure.
you. But you're not doing carnivore better because you're eating that way. Like, we
No.
all have a different carnivore journey, and some have dairy, some have spices, and that's still
Yeah.
considered carnivore. So, ugh.
Well, and whatever happened to like, it's what I was talking to you about the other day. It's like the reality is actually when you look back at our ancestors and you see, I really feel like being metabolically flexible is the goal. For me personally, I don't know if I'll ever get there, but I genuinely feel like that is the goal for optimal health. That you can eat a carnivore diet, you can fast however much you want. You can do all these things to run on your own reserves and live off of fatty meat and protein. And then you can partake. And I've heard Dr. Ken Berry talk about this too, where his family lives on a farm. And if he wants to have a fresh picked pear from the tree in the summertime with his kids, he's going to do that. And that's actually how we're meant to live. So for the people that have the comments about the cinnamon, I have an idea. If you have a debilitating autoimmune problem, like Michaela Peterson probably, or you suffer from severe anxiety and depression, or you are stage 4 cancer, maybe don't make that one. Maybe take the cinnamon out.
There's 75 other recipes you can choose from.
Yeah. And you'll thrive. And those people, those are the people that would never even make a comment about that. They're self-aware enough to be like, as I heal, what a cool thing that I could try one day. You have to have reasoning as to why you're doing things. And if you don't, you kind of sound stupid, because the people that are genuinely doing that and even living in that way, look at how Dr. Sean Baker talks. He jokes and he does like his reels and stuff like that, and he's funny. But when you listen to him actually on like his podcast and like when he's explaining things, he is not some judgmental, crazy lunatic. He's actually incredibly curious of a person, and he stays incredibly curious. And I feel like when people are too sure about things and like this is bad and that's wrong and this, I get nervous about those people.
Yeah, and he doesn't always talk in absolutes, and he's even
No.
said, like, "Maybe I'm wrong, but this is
Mm-hmm.
what I'm thinking." And yeah, besides the cinnamon comment, I'm getting comments like, uh, "True carnivores or meat and eggs, you don't need a cookbook for that," like, knocking down the cookbook, where it's like, I have learned, this comes naturally for me in the kitchen, and I forget that it's not for some people, and literally some people need to be taught how to boil water. So things
They do.
that come easy for me don't
Mm-hmm.
for others. So some people, yes, do need to be taught how to cook a steak. And so I
Mm-hmm.
do have a chapter of like simply meats where it's literally different
Yeah.
cuts of meat, beef, chicken, lamb, salmon,
Because that's
shrimp.
overwhelming for people. Like
Yeah,
if
like
you're just learning to cook, like you might have spent time in the kitchen making casseroles, of like 50,000 ingredients. And like then it kind of freaks people out to be like, no, you're gonna make a steak today and eggs. And they're like, oh, how do I not overdo that? I overdid eggs for like 4 years. Poor Jordan. He's finally like, oh my God, the yolk cracks.
Yeah, so that's why I'm aware of how people eat. I know some just eat simply, and some are
Mhm.
lion diet, some are dairy free. So I try to have something in there for everybody, but it's just
Yeah.
bothering me. And I feel like it's only coming from these like cranky old men that are just saying you don't need a cookbook for steak, eggs, and bacon. And it's like, well, yeah, you do, because
They're kind
there
of
was a
selfish.
point. Yeah, well, wasn't there a point where you're cooking your very first steak or your very first piece of bacon and you're probably like, what do I do? Like people need to
Yeah.
know that stuff. So I don't know. I'm just a little
Mhm.
like bothered because it just feels so dismissive because I've poured my heart and soul and blood, sweat, and tears into this book. And when they're like, oh, you don't need it, it's like, well, you may not need it and you may not want it. That's fine. But why are you knocking it down? Let's spread the word about carnivore together.
Right.
Like
Well,
help
that's what I
out.
was going to say. You're sensitive, and so am I, so I can understand this. And so, but the reality is, again, it's people that are just like so opinionated. And honestly, it's such a selfish comment because clearly I would imagine that that person's unmarried and without children. Sorry, but I'm just assuming. And maybe they're not, but once again, it's like you don't want to expose other people you love because guess what? You could get that cookbook and gift it to someone in your life that you're really wanting to show them the way that you eat and live, and that maybe for them it is depressing to look that you eat steak and eggs every single day. Now, to defend them a little bit and just I get that. I do really well when I eat really simple when I'm getting back on track. And that's fair. And I even put a post about that the other day because I was like, in the beginning of my journey, I needed a lot of variety. Like it was very depressing to me to think about. I didn't even like leftovers, let alone eating the same thing every single day or like the same lunches. And like, so what about for those people? Like, what about for kids? It's very hard and I mean, go to your comments, talk about how scary it is to think about. But it's like if you want to ease your family in because you care about them and you care about their health, it's not that you're trying to put your dogmatic ways on people. We know and believe that eating an animal-based diet is the optimal way to eat. So, like, what a brilliant way to bring people into it and to help them. He can continue eating all the steak and eggs he wants, but maybe he could bring some carnivore. Again, I can't get past the cinnamon rolls. Just very excited about them. But he could bring those for dessert and not tell anyone. And then, do you know how many times I've done that? And they're like, what? This is keto? This is, and I'm like, yeah, you're not eating disease. How does that feel?
Right. Yeah, and it just makes me wonder because this is like these I've had like 3 comments in the last 24 hours that are standing out to me. And it just makes me wonder like why are they being so like combative? Like why are they feeling so defensive on their steak and eggs? Like it's just interesting. Like is it
Yeah,
because like maybe they think that's how they have to eat, but they really want to have cinnamon rolls, but they think that they
I
shouldn't?
know.
I don't know. But yeah,
Like it
back
seems
to
like they're threatened in their own belief system. Like be confident about what you're doing. And
yeah,
I
it's
told you
weird.
that. Like it's about, but like looking, why is Chafee and Baker and all of these and Dr. Barry, these people are very excited about your cookbook. You know why? Because they care about spreading a good message. And they all eat very simply too,
Yeah.
but it's like they care about whose hands this could get into to could really help people. That's the point.
Yeah.
So for the 3 comments, bye bye. We
Right.
love
It's
everyone else.
yeah, it's just they just seem and I even told one of
It'll be
them
all right.
I told one of them, like, "You just seem so bitter. Like, why can't you
Yeah.
just help spread the word and be supportive about wanting to get the word out about carnivore?" But like you said, I also eat very simply. I'm not busting out
Yes, you
carnivore
do.
lasagna and eggs Benedict every day. Like, very simple. But for me, it's
A
fun
great
to
option.
once in a while have this, just different textures and flavors. And yes, for the family, special occasions, you're having people over and maybe you don't
And
just wanna
how
cook
about
steaks.
for everyone that's been promoting your cookbook, like the videos you've been reposting, like that stood out to me too. Like Laura Spatz yesterday, her kids immediately were all over like the lasagna. And that because why? That's what our kids are inundated with. That's what they see at school and on commercials. And this is like the whole problem. So it's like instead of it's no different than someone who's been addicted to the standard American diet for 30 years and they are up 100 pounds and they're diabetic and sick. They have to start somewhere. So for them, just eating steak and eggs every single day is probably very depressing. Same thing for kids that are seeing little snack packs and all this crap in their friends' lunches all day. So, yeah, having lasagna that's good for them is great. Having cinnamon rolls on a Saturday morning because they went over to Mary's house for a little sleepover and that's what her mom did, and now you can do that too, but feel confident that you're giving your kids clean ingredients and they love it. And you're also helping their palate so they don't crave all the crap food. Like, come on now. You don't have to be smart to figure this out.
Thank
Like,
you. So, yeah, go grab one, you guys, please. I would appreciate it. Give it as a gift. Put it in, like, a lot of neighborhoods have that free library. Like, if you don't want it, go,
yes.
like, stick it in there. But Christmas is coming up. Like, I love that. Buy a copy for yourself and for someone else. Thank you.
I'm going to do that. Seriously, I am buying a lot for Christmas gifts this year. And then you
Thank you.
also think this is kind of funny because I thought about this. We do have like the little neighborhood up on the corner. They don't really talk to us. They're not super friendly, but I do know one thing that they're vegan. Only because Judy and Bill next door. Not that that's funny, but how funny would it be to put the carnivore cookbook in their thing? Judy and Bill next door, they're just old souls. They don't know what carnivore is, but they go, "Yeah, they just eat plants." And I was like, "Okay, that's all we need to know.
Oh my
Thank you."
gosh.
I'm gonna go put a carnivore cookbook in their little neighborhood library.
Hey, and you know what? It may spark some interest, and then they'll realize that their health
Mhm.
has been deteriorating most
Yeah,
likely, and those are my
yeah,
favorite stories are the vegans turned carnivore because
yeah.
not only are you leaving a very opposite diet, but you are leaving like your ideology, because I feel like a lot of people are eating that way, like
True.
for the animals. And so
Yeah.
that's like, and it becomes your identity. And that's hard. That would be hard to leave.
Incredibly, because yeah, to your point, it's so much more, it's about your identity, you know, which is really hard, and what you believe and morals, and that's tough. So I get that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like what we're doing in a way, you know,
Hmm.
like I feel
Yes.
like that us and vegans, we have that in common, that we are deeply passionate about how we eat and why we
Yeah.
eat. They're just wrong.
I mean, and sick. I mean, you know, like there is such a thing as the essential amino acid profile, and nutrients. You can't argue with that, but this isn't about that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's okay. You can be vegan. That's all right.
Yeah.
Um, so what else is going on? So you mentioned like, maintenance mode, being in those like within the 10 pounds. Are you still, not to like put you on blast, because I don't
Put
know
me on
the answer.
blast.
I don't know the answer to this. So I'm not trying to bait you. Are you still
No, this
within
is
that
good.
10 pounds?
No, I'm
Okay.
not. So your girl is back into weight loss mode, officially, seriously. And do you know what I do? This sounds really cheesy, but I do everything that I coach in my program. And I always joke about this because I do the resets with my clients in general, like when I do a 6 week. But again, like, you know, like I've said, like I live a little, like I've been out of full on weight loss mode for a while. So it's like I feel comfortable until now I don't feel comfortable. And I'm up on the scale and I am a little disappointed in myself. And I'm just kind of having like human moments, right? And I think it's good. What I would prefer, Courtney, is if I could come on in January and tell you about this time and be like, yeah, I was like, you know, I gained weight, but I got it off and like blah, blah, blah. It's hard being vulnerable when you're in it. And
Yeah.
you and I have talked about that. It's like when people
The
like
messy
start
middle.
like, yeah, like they start like a accountability Instagram, but it's like when they're at their goal weight and they like tell you how they got there, you know? And so I I have to redefine things with myself. I was being pretty mean with myself, to be honest, and like a little bit disappointed and like kind of all over the place. And that was not serving me. And so I had to do a couple things that I know to do. I hired and paid for a personal trainer that also holds me accountable with my nutrition, my macros, my daily habits that I'm doing. I have to sign off with him annoyingly every single day. And I also have you and one other friend of people who are like minded, not enablers, but will also call me out about stuff. And I check in with people every day. And that really helps me stay on track. And on top of that, I have goals for myself. And here's what's crazy. I mean, I don't have that much to undo, but the reality is I look very differently at timelines, I think these days too. Like I'm really giving myself to the end of the year. And for some people that's like, oh, that's like 4 months. Like that's crazy. Like, you know, and it's like not really. Change takes time. And I think for me, I'm wanting to be patient with myself to really do it right and to feel really good and to not try to fall into this mindset that all of us fall into, which is like these quick fixes, because there isn't a quick fix. But the reality is, I want to break back up with sugar and the carbs and this mentality that those things serve me. It's not necessary to have the conversation if like you can have, because I think that this is the problem. This is where I struggled with, to be honest. People talk about like you lose all this weight, you've been keto or low carb for so long, you of course you feel like crap when you have sugar. You know, like that's the debate. You can kind of hear people like because your body isn't used to it. So I think in my mind I started with like cleaner sources, like just like not even reintroducing but allowing myself to have like a little bit more wiggle room with stuff. And at the end of the day, I really had to ask myself, like, are these things contributing to my life or taking away from? It's a very simple question. And for me, it was taking away from. I all of a sudden the food noise turned back on. and the cravings started and I started deviating. And the only thing that happens when I do that is I stop trusting myself. And when I'm not trusting myself, that's a major problem because I've spent years building trust and confidence in my own abilities when I started as a very insecure, low place, you know? So I just believe in the mindset piece. I really believe in the nutrition component and turning off the negotiating in our mind. And so I've walked myself through cheesy, ridiculous practices that I know work, that I've not done in a really long time. And it's been very humbling, but it's helping.
Yeah, and that's good you're, getting back at it and opening up your toolbox to what you need to do. But back to what you were saying about giving yourself to the end of the year, when you only have the last 10, 15, 20 pounds to go, it slows down and that's normal.
Yeah.
Like you might lose 2, 3, 4, 5 pounds a week, depending on, I mean, you might lose 20 pounds in the first week if you're like 500 pounds, but towards the
Mm-hmm.
end, it slows down. Like,
Yep.
just to give a little update where I am, I've been working with Coach Nat for I think like 2 months now, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm only down like 3 pounds maybe on the scale, but
Mm-hmm.
I see a difference. So I would encourage
Major
anybody,
difference.
everybody to take measurements and take photos.
Yeah.
You will be so glad you did. You
Yes.
don't have to share them with anybody, but to only see 3 pounds would be discouraging, but
Yeah.
I've got some biceps going. I can
Yes.
see a difference in my stomach, like, the side picture, it used to go like this, and now it's this awful ski slope. But that means it's, like, it's shrinking. Um,
Yes.
and
Inches,
so
muscle mass.
yeah, so, like, body composition is changing, but the scale isn't shifting that much, and that could be frustrating if that's your only, like, measure thing that
Yeah.
you're using.
Yeah. No, you're so, and I think like what's important for me to say, I'm not, and I know I did say I'm giving myself to the end of the year, but my point is I'm not thinking about next month. I'm not thinking about before the holidays. I'm thinking about how I want to feel and look and that confidence again and the muscle building and all of that going into a brand new year. My goals don't end. I always have goals. Right now, it just happens to be definite weight loss. But with that, I do things very differently now. Like I'm like you, I'm also training and working out a lot and learning to eat differently and playing with macros. And it's like a whole thing. But I think at the end of the day, it's all encompassing. Like if you are moving your body, if you're getting rest, which you know I struggle with, and if you're eating well, like we know a nutrient dense diet and pulling off on all the BS, you're everything's gonna it's gonna take care of itself. But the big things that so I have to like pull off on my goals. I have to pull off on how much weight I want to lose on the scale, about all of these things. I use it as a measurable, as you know, but I do go off of inches. I go off of the way my clothes are fitting. And that is like so much more rewarding. No one's walking around with a post-it note on your forehead saying what the scale said this morning. Like no one, people are shocked when I tell them how much I actually weigh because I'm 5'8". So when I had a goal weight of like 129, people were like, I don't think that should be your goal weight. And I mean, I also had to learn like, oh yeah, like actually, I think feel incredible at 149 and I'm like a size 2. So it's like everyone's body is completely different. You have to be patient with it. And that's why like I just want to say this like because of like my clients too, if you're just starting out on a fitness journey or weight loss journey, or you're in the middle of it and you're married to this number, just know that might change and that's okay. It does for most people. Katarina's one where she was like, had this crazy number that wasn't even that crazy because she lost like 125 pounds. But as she was getting closer to that number, she was like, no, like I feel good. Like her face starts to get like really thin. I'm like, give me a break. But it did. Like she was like losing a lot of weight and feeling amazing. But she was like, yeah, I don't look as healthy. Like I actually feel incredible where I'm at. I'm going to stop. And I'm like, that's the goal. Like
That's
learn your
good.
body.
And I
Yeah.
also, like, no offense, but I think some people, their goal weight is too high. Like, I get how
Yeah.
that might be, like, a good next step, but I
Yeah.
wouldn't use that as, like, a way to, like, set macros or something. Like, you should lower that
Mhm.
by 50 pounds," you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, you're right. You're right about
Like,
that
if
too.
you're 5'4", your goal weight shouldn't be 180, I wouldn't
Yeah.
assume. Even
Yeah.
all body
No.
shapes are different, like, that's still, like, very high. So,
Yeah.
yeah, let's be
Yeah.
realistic and then adjust as needed. But I will
Agree.
add, yeah, we all need to, like, get our diet in check and exercise, but it could be more than that. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm on this new, like, protocol,
Yeah, talk about
supplement
that.
protocol. Yeah, which I'm feeling amazing today because I didn't take them. I had to take a day off. I've been
Your body's
feeling
getting used to it.
I've been feeling so lousy,
Yeah.
and I think part of it is because I'm taking some on an empty stomach, which I'm gonna try tomorrow, taking them after food, even though they should be empty stomach. I'm gonna see if that even makes a difference. But Danny was also saying I'm just like detoxing so much that I can't, like, my body's not getting rid of it, so it's just recirculating, and that's why I'm feeling like crap. Um,
Yeah.
where was I going with that? Oh yeah, like why I'm taking them. So the whole reason that I worked with Danny is, and this is Danny Conway, I'll link her stuff below. I wanted to get labs done just in general. I haven't had my cholesterol done since like month 6 or whatever. So I wanted that basic information, but I was also like, why am I struggling so hard to get this weight off? It's like I'm doing
Mhm.
all the right things. I'm carnivoring the best I can. I'm working out, this, that. And it's still like, and even now working with, a coach for the last 2 months, it's still like, I feel like I haven't seen. Okay, I've gotten muscles, but you know what I mean? Like, I thought I would
Yeah.
be at my goal weight. So, it could be just underlying things. Like, for me, it showed up that
Yeah.
I have, some low thyroid markers, a lot of things that were showing up, like, for her analysis of it led to, like, I need some liver and kidney support. I also
Mhm.
have the mother effer gene, which apparently also can lead to not detoxing properly, like my
Yeah.
body not
Like
getting rid of
40% of
it.
the population has that.
Okay. Yeah. So I
Mhm.
have that. And there was another marker that showed like I could have like mold or Lyme or a parasite. And just with all this, like your body like is holding on. Like I know if you have mold, like your fat cells, like, are holding in the mold to, like, keep your body protected from the mold. So a lot of people that have mold have a hard time losing weight because it's like your body won't let go of it because then it goes in your system or something. So that's
Wow.
interesting. Yeah, so I'm hoping this new protocol I'm on, which does include some binders, is just gonna help slough out all, like, whatever is going on with me. And she said it's just to like, it's a 3 to 4 month thing. It's just to like guide your body to go back on track and be like, okay, this is how you need to work properly. And I'm hoping that will
Yeah.
then also help with weight loss because some people get to their goal like that and have like no body
I
fat. For
know.
some reason, my body is just really wanting to hang on to it. And
Yeah.
I'm hoping this will be like a part of it too.
I think so, and I'm so excited about Danny Conway's talk at the Keto Diet Summit too, so little plug for that. Put your
Yeah, we'll
thing.
put some links in there real quick. So it's like Keto Diet Summit. It's a free event. You can upgrade to VIP tickets, but it's very like heavily carnivore dominated this year, I feel
It
like, or
is.
this round. They had one earlier this year. Yeah, Danny Conway, you're going to be part of it. Me,
Mhm.
Serena, Carnivore JT, the Emmerichs. I'm sure there's a few more I'm forgetting. Dory. But yeah, go check it out.
Yeah.
I'll link it below. It's soon. I better get this out before that comes out. Isn't it in like
I
5 days?
Yeah, it is.
All right,
I
I'll
don't
hurry and
know.
get this out. But
It starts next Sunday, the
okay,
15th to the 17th.
I got some work to do. I want to get my Wyoming trip edited and up here. I had over 300 video slides I need to like edit. So yeah, I need an assistant. Okay, so
Fun.
back to what you were saying. I don't know what you were saying.
So about that, I was just saying, like, so I'm excited about her talk. I'm
Oh
excited
yeah,
about
yeah.
you and everything that you're doing with this because I agree. And I think it comes down to you and I talk about this. Like, if something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. I've also struggled with a lot of things. I'm in the process of like getting labs drawn and everything. And it's just funny because I get really frustrated because like when you think and you kind of know that you eat kind of the best possible way possible. I mean, like you and I kind of know that, and I think everyone watching this like knows that. You know, I think there's a lot of debate out there regarding fiber and like this and that. And I do think there's a lot of things that are personal. Carnivore, please settle down. But I think there's so much that depends on the person. And again, not being so like married to one way of doing things. You and I have talked a lot about high fat versus higher protein. And I just think that there's like a lot that you can play with. But going back to your point, for most people, they have underlying stuff. And I know for me personally, I definitely struggle with detoxification for sure. And so that's something I'm kind of exploring myself. And I think that that can also lead to things feeling harder. And, but I think it's like we need to realize why, because I notice I just have more of an appetite or my stress feels really high. So, like, if my stress is high and I'm not managing stress very well, I know my cortisol is up. I know that that's going to make you hold. I know that's affecting my sleep. All that's really dramatic, like when it comes to like weight loss. And then on top of that, feeling more stressed and exhausted leads me to eating more calories naturally. Like on average, people eat at least 400 more calories than they intend to when they're tired. That's like a universal statistic. Don't quote me on where I got that, but it's legit. So it's just like, I think that's what it comes down to. It's not that like this isn't working and it used to work. There's things that have changed, right? Like I know for me, it's like, well, I'm not nailing my macros every single day because my appetite's in and out and my stress feels really high. And like there's other things going on hormonally, you know?
Yeah, so going back to the detox stuff, I mean, I don't want to like give away Danny's handbook that she sent
Right.
me, but some things I'm going to work on are like doing the sauna, which has the sound of it's been awful because I've been nauseous. So I haven't been doing that. Dry brushing. I bought the castor oil pack. I did her weight loss
Me too.
accelerator like over a year ago and I bought it
Oh,
then and I haven't used it, but that's supposed to be helpful. Um,
definitely.
Coffee enema, I will probably never, but I know we talked about that yesterday. Your ears perked up. Yeah, not
Never
no
been
thank
more
you.
into the life. So into it.
So yeah, just little things to like help our body just what word I'm
Yeah.
like slough it off, slough it up. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just like
Flush it out,
yeah, there you go.
you
Flush it
know,
out.
like just get rid of, we are so exposed to toxin all day, every day. It can feel really overwhelming. Like I know I get overwhelmed and I know people do. And that's where it's like, I don't know. I appreciate when people talk about like low hanging fruit. It's like the best way not to get overwhelmed with this type of stuff is to think about like what you do daily. Like we drink water daily. We have to eat. Like, so it's like if you can just start with your diet and then you can focus on even like your water. Like we actually just recently got like a brand new water purification system because we were like using old school like Brita and stuff like that. Like that is like
From the
so
90s or
I know. Like it I will be the first to admit it. It's like a laziness thing, you know, where it's like now nothing is getting filtered out of that and it's just getting filtered with extra microplastics is all
yeah.
that's doing, basically, you know? And it's like crazy. And then like drinking out of plastic water bottles and all of that type of stuff. Like that we and I used to be the type too where I'm like, I can't even hear microplastics. Like that's so stressful. And it's like, well, guess what? That's everywhere. That's in everything. I
Yeah.
just purged my whole bathroom, like you know, like all of my a lot of it I didn't even use, but it's just like from like traveling, like hotels, like little shampoos, conditioners, soaps. And I'm like, no, I use Serena's Purely Tallow. I
We'll link it
use a
below.
couple other yeah, link that too. But seriously, and it's like that has helped. I was on Accutane as a teenager. No one asked me what I was eating. The second I changed my diet, and I will say also changed to like cleaner skincare, my skin immediately cleared up.
Yeah, I
It's
like
just a lot.
what you're saying, low hanging fruit, just make small changes. And you know what?
Small change.
I went backwards a little bit. I just invited more microplastics into my home. I bought a whole sleeve of plastic cups with lids and straws to make my life a little bit more convenient with like
Oh,
to go drinks, like a
that's
coffee.
fair.
And I know that's horrible. Like
Yeah.
I mean,
That's,
it's horrible. We shouldn't be drinking out of plastic. And I just a few days ago got it because you know what? I'm in my paper plate era. Anything I can do right
well,
now to make my life easier, I feel like
that's what I was gonna say.
the stress of
Right.
things can kill you, probably be more harmful than the
Yeah.
plastic I'm drinking.
Agree. That's what I was about to say. Like, I think it really does come down to like what is affecting you more right now in general. Like, if it is microplastics, then we can reassess that. But I feel like it's a matter of like just the stress. To your point, it's really nice not to have clutter. Like we talked about, like decluttering and getting rid of crap and not having buildup everywhere. Where it's like, I'm not gonna lie. I told you I cleaned out like my whole bathroom, and I'm like so happy every day when I get ready.
It's
It's sad.
important. Yes, no,
It's
I mean,
sad.
clean surfaces, like if you have a cluttered house, you're gonna have a cluttered mind, and I
Other
feel that
mind.
100%. Like I'm looking around right now and I feel like the walls are closing in on me. Like Jeff has shirts piled right here. I even have a few things over here because I need to make room in my like vanity to put them. So they're just sitting there because it's not a
Yeah,
priority right now. But
right.
it helps my anxiety so much to have a
Me too.
tidy home, and we've just accumulated so much stuff, especially like the kids stuff. Like I really need
Yeah,
to, when they're not around, get rid of it. Like I want my house to look like a model home. Jeff
yeah.
likes it to like look like people live here. I'm like, I want it to look like zero people live here. Like
Minimalist.
we don't need
Yeah.
toothbrushes out on display. That's not my decor. I don't need your shoes here because like he's more of like a he needs to see it to know where it is and use it. The whole like hunter
Totally.
gatherer thing or
100%
whatever.
true.
And I feel like he also doesn't see the clutter. Like he like
Mhm.
looks past it because they're looking out there to go like hunt for us. Ugh, so yeah,
I
I
love
need
that you
to
made it primal though. You at least made it incredibly primal and attractive. Can I talk about one
uh,
thing with stressors real fast? Because I
yeah.
had a wild revolution this week. Revelation. It's turning into a revolution, maybe. That's the way we say it. So I told you, and you know, I believe in like pulling off on stressors like the week before women's cycle, right? Because of hormones and all of this stuff. Like Mindy Pell's great resource, right? But I told you, like, when I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, I don't really notice. And you say the same thing. Like, you don't even notice your cycle's coming, right? Well, perfect storm of me getting fully back on track with my nutrition. And also, and let me just preface by saying, if I go off plan, it's for like a meal. Like, I'm not like someone that goes off plan because I will feel like hell. So, like, even if I want to, I can't live like that because I get depressed, I get anxious, I'm immediately feel physically awful where I like can't do life. But it was the consistency of going off plan. So I just want to say that I'm not the type that like I go off plan for like days in a week. Like I could never do that and function. But that's all it takes is for me just to have these one-offs consistently every other week or whatever the deal is to feel pretty awful. So I just say that because this past week when I was getting back on track, nutrition, working out, everything felt really freaking hard. And it's not always like that. You know, like my 3 day rule and the things like usually I get right back on track with my nutrition. I'm working out, I'm thriving. Well, it was the week before my cycle. And I could feel this total shift in hormones that I normally do not notice. And I had cravings. I was like debilitatingly exhausted. My electrolytes were wild, as you know. Like I was having like headaches, which I never get headaches. I was like literally going through like keto flu. I think like getting it was wild though. And I just say that because I've been eating this way for like 7 years. Like I don't have a crazy adaptation period of getting back on track. My workouts were impossible. I like got mad at my trainer. Like I was like, that was horrible. He was like, you did a harder one last week. Like, what are you talking about? Everything was hard. And so it was so eye-opening. Like, just like again, going back to like, that's all it takes is for me to have like a couple periods like that where I'm like, like that freaks me out enough that it scares me into staying consistent, if I'm being honest. Like the whole, and I do share this like with clients sometimes too, because if people are like binging on sugar on the weekends and like they can't figure out like how to stay consistent, well, let me remind you, when you eat a high fat, high protein animal based diet with a lot of saturated fat, and then you're pairing that with sugar binges every couple days, yeah, that's probably very problematic for heart disease, for cholesterol, for diabetes. And I think that that's like an important thing to realize. I know not a lot of, that's kind of depressing to say, but I mean, that it took me to understanding like how the body works and like health things that I'm like, yeah, I don't need to be dabbling with both. It like if I can't stay consistent on animal based, well then yeah, maybe that's not for me. Or I don't know what the deal is. I mean, I think it is for everybody, but like sometimes fear of like real life, well, like this week felt uncomfortable enough that I'm like, yeah, I don't plan on touching sugar anytime soon because that sucked, to be honest.
That's good. And I feel like sometimes, you know, you need to like not test things out, but sometimes like you can't tell a kid don't touch the stove, it's hot, and then they're just going to listen to you. They want to touch it and experience it for themselves.
Yeah.
But just to wrap up, we'll have to do another one because we have so much more to talk about, and I feel like
Chatty.
yeah, it's been long. We'll just wrap it up here, but you have a new program coming out if you want to tell them about that. And mind you, let me just like, say this. You've lost like over 90 pounds. So let's ignore the fact that she's struggling. She can help you. Her stuff works. I've been in her classes. I get coaching from her every day. So what can you tell us about that?
Yours made me say that. I told you I was going to be vulnerable. I think that that's what makes probably me a little bit different as a coach is that I do try to be vulnerable and share, real life things because I get it and I've been there and clearly I'm still there sometimes. But I think that that's okay. And it's a matter of like, we're stronger in numbers. So thank you for saying that. But I typically run a 6 week reset with my clients. A lot of people know about that. And I do that several times a year. But I am switching some things up. I'm doing an 8 week program with my personal trainer. He is like young and fit and cool. And what makes him really unique, and he's out of LA. So he like works in this like real cool, like Beverly Hills gym. But he also has a ton of sisters and a girlfriend, and he has a really great perspective. And he's super close with his mom. So a good perspective when it comes to women. And he has a lot of female clients. So I just say that because I used to be wary of like working with like men sometimes, especially when it came to like weight loss and fitness. But something that my program has been missing that I'm really passionate about is strength training for women. It is something I wish I did earlier on in my weight loss. When I did incorporate that in, my body massively changed. It did help me get to my goal weight quicker. But I swear it helps me not have as much things like loose skin. That's a bold claim. And I think there's a lot that goes into that, but I genuinely really believe in like the strength training piece. So he is building out a whole workout library and I'm excited about it because I think it's also really intimidating for women, especially, but he is doing a beginners. So truly there is no age limit. There is no fitness level required. It is truly beginner, but also intermediate. I'm more of like an intermediate fitness person like you now. And it's going to be at home and also gym workouts. So I'm really excited about that. And then I'm building out the whole nutrition side. We are going to have a private Facebook group community, very small for accountability. We're going to do weekly lives and Q&As. And we're really pumped about it. And it's going to be for men and women, which I think is kind of unique. And so we're inviting come one, come all. If you want to partner with your spouse or a friend, or just come by yourself and let me be your accountability buddy, we're pretty hyped. So we're launching September 30th,
Oh,
first week of October. Coming
awesome.
up.
That's exciting. Yeah. So everyone go follow Britt right now so you can know when all those details come out. What is health edit Britt? What's your handle?
Health Edit by Britt, 2 T's at the end.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks again for joining me to chat. We'll do it again soon.
Love
Like
it.
and
My favorite
subscribe.
place to be. Like and subscribe. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.